So on today's episode, we're going a bit nepotistic with our guest. Actually, it's not real nepotism because she's here based on her own merit. She's built up a huge following and a large community within the food and chef space. So for those familiar with a plant-based food space, you'll know her as the Vegan Nigerian and the author of the Plantain Cookbook. But I, of course, know her as my baby cuz, or Tomi. Her actual name is Tomi.
Oh no.
I told you I was going to embarrass you. So how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm very excited to be on this podcast. As I said to you before, I just think it's a brilliant initiative and we need it right now. So yeah, kudos.
Oh, you're so kind. You're so kind. Yeah.
Keep
I'm going to be
anything.
asking you a few questions today, but obviously answer as if I don't know everything about you already.
So yeah, do you want to start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Tomi. As Shiji said, I run a platform called the Vegan Nigerian. And I would say Vegan Nigerian started out as a blog, which I continue to run till today. I still share recipes on there, resources that pretty much is aimed at encouraging people to adopt the plant-based lifestyle, but through the lens of Nigerian culture, so that they can, find meals that are recognizable to them. But this has kind of grown over the years, and I've been a chef. I've published, some cookbooks, and I create content online. I do catering. So yeah, a bunch of different things, but all within the food space.
Yeah. So what inspired you to create the Vegan Nigeria, and how did it all start?
Yeah, so I'll take you back to 2012. At the time, I was still at university studying English and French, so completely unrelated to food and chefing. And we had to spend a year abroad in France. And so I was there sort of doing my internship placement. And I suddenly had all of this time on my hands to really think about what I was eating and just the effects of food on my health in general. And I guess the more research I did into it, the more convinced I was that the vegan lifestyle would work for me. And then on top of that, I had been doing all kinds of research into like the environment and animal rights, and everything just kind of clicked into place at that point in time. And so then end of 2012, I go vegan. I come home and mum is cooking like a big pot of chicken. And I'm there like, am I really doing this? Am I really doing this? But I kind of stuck to my convictions and decided to run with it. And then I guess the creation of the Vegan Nigerian came as a result of wanting to express this new avenue that I was going down, but also it was in response to a lot of questions I would get from people, like, what are you going to eat now that you're vegan? Is it going to be all salads? And in the words of my brother, is it going to be leaves and twigs? So,
It's a valid question. It's a valid question.
Valid questions. Hey, I can't even knock it. And so, yeah, it was my response. And then I just started to blog my way through all the food that I was cooking, veganizing traditional Nigerian meals and a few contemporary ones as well.
So basically, you went to France. Your parents sent you to university to study. You go to France and then you come back vegan.
Absolutely. Change for the better. And I just didn't have that same kind of headspace. And I was probably eating quite unhealthy, I would say. I can hold my hands up and admit that. And so being in France, I don't want to put the family I was living with under the bus, but but dinners were eye-raising. It was just a lot of dairy and a lot of processed meats.
Okay.
And yeah, so that intuition just kind of kicked in, like, oh gosh, this can't be doing me any good. Like my energy levels are like the worst they've ever been. Yeah. And so yeah, I think being in France, yeah, it had to be at that time. Otherwise, in my everyday life, I probably would have just continued as normal.
Okay. So you went to France, you were eating lots of dairy, lots of processed meats, and
Sounds great.
You didn't just go, you know what, I'm going to eat a lean chicken breast. You went, I'm going to go full vegan. So you still need to explain to me, what is it? Are you an all or nothing kind of person, or what?
I kind of am. I really kind of am. When I set my mind to something, I just have to kind of do it or not. Okay, I will tell you one of the things that really solidified it for me, actually. It was a documentary I watched called Earthlings.
Okay.
And as soon as I watched it, it was one of those things where you can't unsee what you've seen.
Right.
And yeah, so they had like behind the scenes footage and like animal slaughterhouses and, you know, the full thing. And I just remember just being incredibly shaken to the core that even if I wanted to go vegan for any other frivolous reason, this seemed like a strong enough reason for me to stick with it. And so I would say for anyone who is considering going vegan, you do need that strong foundation, because I don't see it as a trend. I mean, for some people it is, but if you really want to stick to the lifestyle, then really educate yourself on all the different facets, because I think it will lead to that sort of long-lasting mindset.
So veganism, quite back then, was still quite niche, but now it's really grown in popularity. Like everywhere I go, I'm seeing vegan food products, or I go somewhere to order chicken and they say, do you want the chicken or do you want the plant-based chicken? So did you see it as a trend, a fad, or do you think like this is actually a change in mentality that people are now endorsing?
It's a tricky one, because as we know, society has a way of kind of adopting trends and discarding them as quickly as they adopt them. And so I want to hope that it's going to be lasting change. I mean, statistically, more and more younger people are adopting the vegan lifestyle. And so I think when you start from a younger age, you're probably more likely to take it with you into your adult years and hopefully maybe pass it on to your kids in some way. And then there's a lot of education out there right now. There's a lot of information as to what it takes to lead a sustainable lifestyle. Like everyone's about the sustainability. Even if you're not in it for the animals, everyone cares about the environment and the planet and global warming and all of those issues. And I don't see that going away anytime soon. And so for the people who are doing it for the trends, and trust me, being in the vegan space, you do see those people who like, they're vegan for 5 years, they make like thousands of pounds selling their ebooks and whatnot. Wow. And then they come out with a video saying, I'm no longer vegan. And it's, yeah, and it's just such a blow because they have so many impressionable followers as well who kind of follow suit and see it as a trend. But yeah, for the people who are in it for the right reasons, I think they're going to make an impact, and that society is going to trend more towards veganism as we go on.
Like when your mum's cooking, do you not still smell the meat, and does it not bring back memories of eating it, or are your values now so strict that you don't even miss meat?
I don't miss it. Yeah. And you just have to take my word for that.
You just have to believe you.
You just have to believe me, you know? Yeah. And also, like, nowadays, you just mentioned like the chicken alternative, like the plant-based version, right? There's like a version of everything. So if I'm really craving sausages, there are vegan sausages I can get. So I don't feel deprived.
Let's be honest though. Let's be honest, because I can't remember when it was. It was definitely a few years ago. But you challenged your audience, your followers, those who weren't vegan, to try veganism for like a week. And I don't know what was going on in my head, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to try it. I'm going to be vegan for a week. So I actually did it. And I bought a couple of vegan products too, because I was like, okay, I'm going to miss meat. So let me buy some of this meat tasting food. What was the product? I can't remember. But I bought these frozen vegan sausages. They did not taste like sausages to me.
But Shitty, that was how many years ago? That was how many years So
That's a
So
bad
there's been so
story.
much,
has it changed?
yeah. Honestly, like the innovation has been crazy in the vegan space. I mean, you have like brands like Richmond doing product development and trying to get, vegan sausages out in the market. And honestly, yeah, try them again because I feel like what you tried back then, they were like prototypes, basically. So
Yeah,
but it sounds like the difference between it maybe being a trend and actually becoming a lifestyle is that conviction, is that like it becomes like a value. It's not just about, oh, it sounds good or it's the next best thing. I mean, would you agree that that's what makes a difference? Like it's like it has to be authentic. It can't just be a superficial, I'm going to do it not because that's actually what I believe in, but because, it connects me with other people, or, I can make money from it. Like you said, with these people who'll be vegan for a while and then kind of drop it. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that's what makes the difference?
yeah, it really does. You do have to just, like I said, find those concrete reasons for doing it. And then, yeah, once you decide on the path and yeah, you are tasting these different vegan products and some of them are iffy, some of them they get it right, but that doesn't really sway you, right? Because you know why you're doing it. And yeah, you just kind of roll with the punches and hope you come across a decent product along the way.
Yeah, I mean, in your defense, just before the podcast started, we talked about when we last saw each other at one of your vegan events, and the food you cooked that day was really nice. And if all vegan food tasted like that, then maybe I'd try out for 2 weeks instead of 1 week. But I could see myself eating that. I think I would miss meat, but I can see myself enjoying that food because it shows there can be quite a lot of variety. So what's it like being vegan and Nigerian? And I say this because culturally for us, we like to eat our meat. For me, my favorite food is jollof rice with assorted meat, and assorted means all the different pieces. So what's it like being vegan and Nigerian?
I would say it's not as hard as most people think it is. I'm trying to do a lot more research into our food history in Nigeria in particular, and to kind of trace the ways in which our food and our food culture has evolved and developed over the years, especially with globalization, the introduction of these fast food companies, increase in wealth, leading people to actually eat more meat than they used to in the past. I feel like we come from a culture where farming is really huge. People lived off the land. You have so many like abundant plant-based ingredients, like from yam to sweet potatoes, plantain, all the fruits you can think about. So from that perspective, I'm still eating the same things, but I just make little tweaks here and there wherever I can. So for instance, if I'm eating the same jollof rice, I'll cook it with a vegetable stock instead of chicken stock. And then instead of meat, I'll have it like with a side of plantain, moi moi, coleslaw, the full works. So I don't feel as though I'm depriving myself. And then the meat is, can just be an afterthought. If you look at it that way, it's like, actually, there are hundreds of other things I could eat besides a piece of chicken. And then, yeah, once you kind of get your head in that headspace, it's like, okay, this is doable.
Yeah.
Because a lot of our soups are vegetable based. Like we do eat a lot of veg. I mean, there's a lot of oil that is used to cook it a lot of the time, but we do eat a lot of vegetable based soups. So
for
it's not like it's not a part of our diet, but I guess maybe
even a bono.
Yeah, I guess it's just maybe the meat is seen as, we become used to it and it's seen as, I guess, the cherry on top. I mean, I know I look forward to the whole works, but for me, the whole works has to include the meat as well, or the chicken. But I guess you just accept it. That's what you've always grown up eating, I suppose.
Eating meat 3 times a day, I just don't think that's how it was back in the day. You would have maybe meat with your dinner or special occasions, Christmas, birthdays. And now we're beginning to see that this is having a knock-on effect as well on our health. You know, all these dietary related illnesses that could be prevented by just making slight changes in our diet. I think those are things that are worth discussing and that are worth paying attention to. Like Ori mentioned, the amount of oil we use in our cooking, for instance. It's like you could argue and say, well, that's the way my grandma taught me, like, why should I change now? But now that we know that there's a link between sort of the level of fat in your diet and the effect that has on your arteries and like your heart condition, would you then say, no, I'm digging my heels in because of culture? Or would you kind of try and shift in a good direction without necessarily completely giving it up? You know, like there's a middle ground, I feel.
Yeah.